Welcome to Climate and Community, a podcast series where we discuss the connection between community media and climate action. My name is Siobhan Hull, and this podcast is supported by the SMSF Foundation, a not-for-profit organization working towards rural development and empowerment, and it is being produced under the mentorship of Ms. Pooja Maratha. In recent years, climate change has increasingly been recognized as a key area of concern. In fact, taking action against climate change is the UN's 13th Sustainable Development Goal. But how is this information being communicated to average people? In this podcast series, we will interview community radio leaders and other experts to better understand the role of community media in communicating about climate change. Today, we are joined by Ms. Ruchita Thakur, who is a coordinator at Radio Vishwas in Nashik. Well, I was wondering if you could just start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your work.
Yeah. Good evening, and my name is Ruchita Thakur, and I'm a coordinator at Radio Vishwas 90.6 Maharashtra, and Nashik being one of the biggest cities in this state of Maharashtra. We work for the community over here through our community radio. And to tell about myself, always been fond of social work, and this is a great platform to explore and work for the people at root level, which very few people do. And the name of our organization is Vishwas Jnana Prabodhini and Research Institute, and we have a community radio named Radio Vishwas.
Well, it's really nice to meet you. I appreciate you speaking with us today. So, as someone who works very deeply in with a community radio, what do you think is the biggest strength of community media, and what drew you to work in this field?
For me, or like the motive of our organization, give platforms to the voiceless, basically. Like the people who are at the grassroots level. This is a platform for anybody and everybody. You don't have to have a certain type of education to come and use this platform. You don't have to belong to a certain class, or you don't have to be of certain standard to come and portray what you feel, or if you want to celebrate something, you can just use this platform. So we always describe community for the people, by the people, from the people. We need such platforms like community radio where the work is not being done. So the biggest role of community radios we play over here is identifying the gaps in the society. If we can do a bit of identifying the gaps and fulfilling them, that is the biggest strength as community media we have.
So you talked a lot about wanting to fill gaps. Do you see climate change being incorporated into community media? Is that a gap that you're trying to fill at all?
I feel climate change and global warming is like the biggest problem, or like so by getting rainfalls in months like September or October. Well, that's not the right time to get rainfalls, It is a biggest problem, and community media is working towards climate change. In fact, we have many programs on our radio station where we talk about climate change, because we are situated in the urban area. So there are community radios, some which are situated in the rural areas, and some are situated in the urban area. But if you go to some like remote areas, there you can find fresh air, pure oxygen, because the pollution is very less comparatively to the city. We do have some small initiatives which we are running through our radio. We, for example, we had a program for farmers which addressed global change, climate change, and where we gave them some alternatives where that, okay, you're not receiving rainfall in the month of July, but the crops are getting wasted, or they're not getting the growth which is needed. So instead, why don't you adopt for these things, or like why don't you try the greenhouse effect? Government providing subsidy on that, having like those green netted green netted cloth like structures which you can put on your crops, something like that, or through drip irrigation or something. So that's where community media is, playing. So instead, we cannot go to every farmer and talk, but through the community radio platform, we are addressing so many farmers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm wondering, do you have any other examples of programs that Radio Vishwas has done about climate change?
I don't know if you've heard about Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, who is soil, because he says that in another 50 years, the world would be based on food. We'll be having food crisis because we won't have any soil left to grow food on. So Radio Vishwas was part of that campaign when they campaigned in Nasik. So Jaggi Vasudev Sadhguru, he started his journey from London. So he came on a motorcycle, like he biked 36,000 kilometers from London till
Oh my
Coimbatore
gosh.
in South India. Yeah, yeah. And then he stopped every district where he was, spreading awareness about climate change, global warming, about saving soil. Your children, what will your children eat in the coming 50 years? So Radio Vishwas was a bigger part of this Save Soil campaign. So through that, we got an opportunity to address climate change as well.
Do you think that
Yeah.
community media can encourage people to get involved in taking climate action? Have you seen examples of it being successful in encouraging people to make changes?
I mean, I feel that the change begins from you, right? We don't believe that whenever we do, now, for example, if I'm going for some narrow casting, if I'm talking about nutrition to 20 women, okay, so expecting that all 20 women should be incorporating what I'm saying. For me, the success is even if one woman does it in that group, I feel that is a success, right? I mean, we are talking coming into picture, having a bigger picture, talk about the future, but I feel that let's start with smaller steps. Smaller steps will lead to a bigger picture. So we did, there is a Ganesh festival. We get Ganesha idol at home for 10 days, and it's a big festival. People dance. It's all very colorful, cheerful. So those Ganesha idols are made out of plaster of Paris. So they are made of this POP material, which is really harmful for the environment. So it doesn't get decomposed. But to spread awareness on this, every year what we do is we hold these Ganesha idol making workshop, that you make your own Ganesha at home using eco-friendly material. Okay, so that way you can reduce this river pollution which we are talking about. This is how you involve local culture, like how you are addressing the bigger world problems using local culture.
Yeah, I'm hearing you talk a lot about wanting to involve local community members and doing hands-on activities and finding ways to incorporate local customs into your programming.
Yeah, that's how you can convince people. That's how you can convince people. When will you observe behavioral change? When you go inside the community and you be like them. You teach them using what is available around you, using like the local resources, not using a Apple laptop or not using some fancy devices to go to website. So that is what is the biggest role of community.
So with all that in mind of what you're saying about involvement and incorporating the community, do you have any recommendations or thoughts about how community radio can engage with climate issues in the future?
We're not talking about 100 years from now or 200 years from now. We are talking about like the coming generations, like your and my kids who might not have fresh water to drink, who might not have good food to eat. I feel the root of everything today is climate change.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ruchita, for speaking with us. Today, we heard how climate change is connected to all other issues, whether that be women's health or farming. We need community radio programs that tackle the problem of climate change, and Radio Vishwas has already begun this important work. Thank you for listening to this episode of Climate and Community.